Listen, when I sat down to get organized for this video and I was going through all of my credit card statements, I experienced the 7 stages of grief. There was shock and anger, certainly, that I had somehow blacked out and spent an atrocious amount of money this month. I experienced sadness, too, that I had, in a way, let myself down, let you guys down. I genuinely felt like a failure when I was reviewing my finances this month because I did not follow through on a single one of my goals. Finally, sitting in front of you now, filming this video, I have reached the stage of acceptance. Listen, I wish this channel was about me sharing my perfect life, but I am far from perfect. I think I'm being a little bit hard on myself. There were definitely wins this month and progress that was made, but overall, I just felt like I fell short on all of my goals. And that's just gonna be how it is sometimes. Ultimately, I came to the conclusion that it is more important for me to hold myself accountable, to be accountable to you guys, than to be ignorant and not accept the reality of my personal finances. So, with that being said, welcome to my December financial reset. Before we get into the video, I just want to say welcome if you're new to my channel, or welcome back if you are a returning subscriber. My name is Ruth. I'm a millennial living in Calgary, Alberta, and I share my journey about personal finance, career, a little bit of lifestyle sprinkled in there. So if you appreciate keeping it raw, keeping it real, sharing the good, the bad, and the ugly, consider subscribing. We would love to have you as part of this community. Without further ado, let's get into the video. Here's a little rundown of how this video is going to go. I want to do a November recap, give you some life updates, and we'll go through kind of my expenses for the month of November before we reset my budget for December, talk about my December goals, and how I want to close out 2025. So that's the plan. Overall, I wanted November to be a month for me to rest and recharge from the month of October, which was incredibly busy. I scaled back my hours a little bit, and I anticipated lower income coming in from private practice. Unfortunately, that was not matched with a decrease in spending, as you will see. And I also don't necessarily feel recharged now that the month is over. I think although I did work less in private practice and my earnings dropped as a result, I got a lot busier in my main clinic job. And I feel like the less I spent on private practice, that time was filled, that time and energy was poured into my clinic job. So overall, it didn't really feel like a proper rest or month off. Not that I took any time off. I just tried to moderate my time and energy a little bit better. And I honestly don't feel like I was very successful. I feel like I keep anticipating things to slow down, and they never quite get to the point where I feel like I'm not frantically scrambling to keep my head above water. That being said, I do have some vacation days at the end of December, and I have a stretch where I'm off from the clinic for 12 days. So that is going to be a nice break. I probably will still continue to do a bit of counseling within that, just because we do have some pretty ambitious financial goals. So that being said, November was supposed to be a reset and a recharge, and also just a month of lower spending, and it was really none of those things, but that's okay. That's kind of how things feel this time of year anyway. I feel like we're all feeling a little bit tired, dragging ourselves into the new year, and then January will be like a nice fresh start, and I'm really hoping to come back after having a bit of a Christmas break and feel energized again. A couple major life updates that honestly I haven't shared with you guys before, and I feel like help explain a lot of my financial anxiety. The first being that my partner Joel got a job this month. He was actually laid off in September, and I feel like that contributed to me putting a ton of pressure on myself to make up the income gap. Not obviously I can't replace 2 salaries, but I just felt this huge responsibility to care for him and support him in this time and keep us on track with our finances. And With that said, we had actually made the decision this month to push our wedding back. We were initially planning for June 2026. We had a serious chat about wedding savings, and we have ultimately decided that September 2026 is more realistic. We feel like we're back on track. We feel like we're in a good place with that, but it was the past couple months were a little bit stressful and up in the air, just because there was so much uncertainty around when he was going to resume working. I haven't talked too much about wedding planning on the channel, but you'll see more of that content coming out. It is a very financially stressful. We're trying not to go into debt because I just think that's an awful way to start your life together as a new couple, just deep in the hole financially. So we're paying for it all ourselves, and we're trying to make it affordable for us. My other minor life update is that I will be registering in the province of BC. So I'll be registered as a dietitian in Alberta and also in British Columbia. And that will allow me to have a higher and more consistently high caseload. I'm excited for that because we're saving for the wedding. I need to increase my income. But at the same time, I know that it's going to require me to get a lot better at time management. Okay, those are my life updates. Let's rip the Band-Aid off and let's talk about what I spent in November. If you watch my financial reset videos before, you know that I track all of my expenses in the app called Monify, and I do that twice a month. I do that on my paychecks. So when I get paid on the 15th, I'll track all my expenses up to that point, and then I track them again when I get my second paycheck on the 30th. Once I've tracked all my expenses, I will translate them into my money tracker, which is on my computer. It's an Excel sheet. I purchased it from Gabby Peterson, who's another YouTuber on here. And this just allows me to have a nice overview of all my spending and give me a sense of like where I'm over budget in certain categories. I don't feel like I'm using this tracker to the fullest of its abilities, but my plan for January is to like reset everything, enter in all my account balances so that I'm really able to track my progress throughout the entire year, rather than this year. I only started tracking in September, so it hasn't captured like a full year of progression. I've pulled up my money tracker and we're just going to go through a quick recap of November. So for income, I had my clinic salary, and that was $4,650.98. From virtual counseling, I made $1,078.65. Other is just random reimbursements and things I received throughout the month that honestly, it's just an easier way for me to equalize things where people paid me back for stuff rather than go in and adjust my category spending. Hopefully that makes sense. Savings, I actually pulled money out of my savings, $250 that I put towards my wedding dress that I'll talk about when we go through my expenses. And then rollover, I've included that category to capture like the surplus I had the month before that I hadn't allocated anywhere. So that brings my total income to $6,481.26. November expenses. As I've alluded to, this was not my finest month, to say the least. Although, starting off with a win, we were not over budget for groceries. Granted, our grocery budget is insane. And by the way, this is split between Joel and I, so we actually spent in total twice that amount. Transportation and parking, I actually hadn't budgeted anything towards this because we found now that we live downtown, we are just walking everywhere. However, I discovered the scooters this month, and now that the snow is here, I won't be using them anymore, but I had a ton of fun scooting around the city, and I spent $21.42 doing that. In all honesty, I always plan to walk when I'm meeting up with people, and then I leave like 10 minutes late, and I'm like, well, I have to scooter to get there on time. So that's where that expense comes in. Eating out, again, this is a category that I, in my head, didn't feel like I was doing that badly with, but I went way over budget here. I was sick a couple times, so I had definitely increased takeout during those periods. I'm not stoked with that number, but it kind of makes sense to me. Although I will say, did go for a girls' brunch. That was very fun. That was only about $50 though, so overall, not a great month for eating out. Clothing, You guys, this number is shocking for many reasons. I spent $649.75 on clothing. I feel like I have a really weird justification for spending this much on clothing, and that is one of the weekends I didn't have any patients booked in private practice, so I was kind of like, ooh, I have the weekend off, and I rarely have the weekend entirely off. And because of that, I wanted to do a closet declutter. I've been struggling for a while with my closet and just feeling like all my clothes are frumpy and ill-fitting and I have nothing to wear. I did a brutal declutter where I ruthlessly got rid of, I think, 4 bags of clothing. And then I was like, I need to fill some of the gaps in my wardrobe. And what's crazy about this number is I only bought 1 item of clothing brand new, and that was the Aritzia Effortless pants. I bought those. I think they were $160. The rest of that spending is secondhand clothing. I spent almost $400 on secondhand clothing this month. This cashmere cardigan being one of them. I'm really happy with the purchases I made. I think I did it really intentionally in the context of my declutter, but I do wish I'd been a little bit more careful with that. And I feel like in a weird way, it was partially driven by me thinking I'm going to film this and put this on YouTube and it's going to help grow my channel. So in a way, I feel disappointed in myself that I justified spending for a YouTube video. And I didn't even film a haul for you, so how rude is that? Okay, moving on. Alcohol, I just bought a little bottle of champagne for Joel when he got his job offer. We didn't have people over this month. Like I said, I wanted to recharge, and the idea of hosting people actually felt like a little bit more work than I wanted to put in, so that's why that is under budget. Gifts, no gifts in November, no health spending. Business, this is just my Zoom and my Epidemic sound, which is the music I use in my videos. Household, small. I went very over budget in this category, buying things for the closet reset, like some hangers. I got some vacuum seal bags to store clothes under our bed. I also got some Christmas decor. You can see some of it behind. But yeah, a lot of things that are useful and we will use, but again, just not done very mindfully. Household, big. So these are items that are larger furniture items and are usually over $100. As much as I went over budget here, I'm not mad about it. We made an excellent purchase on Facebook Marketplace. We had this awkward nook in our living/dining area, and we found the perfect console that fits exactly in that nook. I'll insert some pictures. I kind of dressed it up a little bit for Christmas. I am so thrilled with that. That I paid for, and then Joel paid for some bits and bobs from IKEA. I also wanted to film a video where I did inexpensive decor and I framed some lovely pieces of wallpaper. And again, the sound was just so off in that video, I decided not to edit it or post it. I'll just insert the pictures here. Those are the frames and the wallpaper that I framed to go in them to have as large art on our walls. I also bought this mini organization unit from Amazon for my closet organization declutter. Here's what it looks like. It's honestly not as functional as I hoped it would be, but at least it displays my shoes nicely and it makes the space look a lot more organized, because before I just had bins of activewear on the floor. So big improvement, but I think we're going to hold off on buying any more furniture. For personal care, I'm actually under budget. I'd budgeted a lot because I was planning on touching up my Botox. I work at a clinic that has a cosmetic division, and we get an unreal discount when it comes to Botox and injectables. So I got my 11s done. I got a little bit of a brow lift, and I got half a syringe of lip filler. Then I also got my nails done, which cost a little bit more than they normally do because I went to a different place, and ironically, I felt like they did a worse job. I think those were the main things under personal care. Feeling good that I was under budget there. Miscellaneous, again, I don't know why I budgeted that to be so high, but not as crazy as I thought it would be. I've added 2 new categories to my expenses. The first is wedding. So, like I mentioned, I'm getting married in September 2026. That is officially 10 months off. And that means that I will be consistently spending money on wedding related purchases from now until then. And the first purchase I made actually was a deposit on my dress. I have chosen to go with a custom wedding dress designer here in Calgary. And believe it or not, that is the cheapest option for the look I'm going for, which is Vivienne Westwood. I paid $780, which was a 50% deposit on my dress, and that's going to cover not only her making the dress, but also the fabric, which I picked the most expensive fabric, and that only added on like $150 to $200 on top of the cost of the dress. So I'm feeling excited about that process, and I'll be sharing a little bit more on that as I go through the process of this custom dress coming together. But yeah, that was my first wedding expense, and it's an exciting one. The other category I added is car. Now, Joel owns the car, he pays the car, but I pay car insurance because I'm a driver on it. And for instance, we bought winter mats this month, so I helped pay for those as well. And any other expenses that come with car maintenance. Those were my expenses, my variable expenses. So that came to $3,650.42. Okay, I'm just going to rapid fire my bills because they don't really change that much month to month. And I feel like I finally have a good handle on what all of my reoccurring expenses are. So rent, $1,040. Energy was $38 this month. Internet is $30.45. Mobile or my cell phone bill was $110. My student loan, not changing anytime soon, $697.55. In terms of subscriptions, I think I canceled a few this month, or I linked a few to business expenses. So that came down to $88.35. For home insurance, I think I messed up the calculation last month, but it actually is only $13.60. Granted, I think we did have some like starter fees associated with switching over our home insurance last month. But all that to say, going forward, it's going to be much more affordable. And then car insurance is $152.04, bringing that total to $2,170.57. Okay, for my savings, I had set an ambitious goal to save $1,500 because I wanted to put $1,000 towards my emergency fund and then $500 towards our wedding fund. And neither of those things happened. I was on track for the first half of November, and I actually put $750 into my emergency fund after my first paycheck in November. And then, as we saw, I went way over budget in a lot of categories and didn't have any money left for savings. In terms of the wedding fund, the way we kind of did it is because I put money into savings that I was going to withdraw for the dress, I ended up only withdrawing $250 to cover the $780 for the dress, meaning that the remaining kind of $500 in change would have been my saving contribution to the wedding fund. So in a way, no, I didn't save additional, but I did not withdraw as much as I could have from the saving funds. All in all, my net savings were only about $750. I am sad about this because I think in the back of my mind, I had a goal to reach $5,000 for my emergency fund by the end of the year. I didn't verbally say that goal because I knew it was a bit of a stretch, and now my emergency fund is $3,750. I wish I had just been able to put another $250 towards that and then be at $4,000. And then if I'd put another $1,000 in December, then I felt like that hitting that $5,000 mark kind of would take some of the anxiety away from feeling like I couldn't put as much into personal savings while I was saving for my wedding. Needless to say, I don't think I'm on track to hit $5,000 by the end of the year unless I have an absolutely insane month for virtual private practice. However, it's okay. I'm still able to balance my personal savings with wedding savings, and that ultimately is what has to happen. So the fact that I'm able to do that is a huge privilege and not something to stress about, but something to kind of celebrate. So anyway, yeah, that's the mental gymnastics I've done to justify falling $750 short on my savings goals. So all in all, for the month of November, I am left with a balance of negative $90.72, meaning I spent about $90 more than I made in November, and that includes the money I put into savings. I do want to clarify though, I don't have a negative balance in my bank account. I like to keep $1,000 float in there for that very reason, in case I do go a little bit crazy. But I want to say, if it weren't for the rollover from the previous month, I think I would very much feel in the hole. Like I said, we're in a place of acceptance now. I think in the morning I was quite depressed about it, but tomorrow is a new month and the budget resets, and it's just an opportunity to do better. So let's hop on over and reset my budget for December. For my income in December, not much is changing. My clinic salary is staying the same. I'm also going to budget $1,200 for virtual counseling. I do think my caseload will increase significantly when my BC registration becomes active. However, I do think I'm going to take some time off from both clinic and virtual counseling at the end of December. So I'm just allowing myself a little bit of flexibility when it comes to earning less from virtual counseling than I have in busier months like October and September. In terms of savings, I'm not pulling anything from my personal savings. And then my rollover, I am subtracting that negative $90.72 from my income, my projected income in December, to even things out. So that gives me a total income of $5,760.26. For my bills and subscriptions, not much is changing. I think I've added a little bit of a buffer in for subscriptions. So that total comes to $2,184.27. Next, I want to allocate some money to savings. So like I said, going forward, I really have to balance my personal saving goals with our shared wedding saving goals. So for the month of December, it's a bit of a higher spend month, as we know. So I'm budgeting saving $500 into my Wealthsimple emergency fund, and then another $500 into my wedding saving fund, for a total of $1,000 in savings for the month of December. Now let's get into my expenses. And this is something I consulted a lot with Joel on, which I think is a good practice going forward, where our priorities are for spending in December. For our expenses, groceries, I'm keeping at $800, just knowing that it's December. We're probably going to want to treat ourselves a little bit more. We might have people over, just giving ourselves a little bit of room there. For transportation and parking, I have actually budgeted $150 because I'm anticipating taking a few Ubers this month. Listen, I'm very anti-car, I'll be honest. If you can't tell, I don't have a car. The car is Joel's. And I had done the math previously when I had a car on what it would cost for me to Uber to work versus own a car. And honestly, I spent less money Ubering to work than I did driving a car. I had the car for a couple months. I got in a car crash. It got written off. And after that, I just Ubered everywhere, and I literally spent less money on transportation. So yeah, in terms of eating out, I budgeted $200. It's December. I'm just anticipating we're going to eat out more, go for drinks with friends, things like that. I don't want to be stressed. I don't want to be in a scarcity mindset about that. For clothing, insane, but I'm giving myself room to spend $100 on clothing, even after spending so much last month. And that's only because we have a lot of holiday parties. I'm hoping to really not spend any money on clothes, but I also know myself, and I do want to feel good this holiday season. I don't think I have allowed myself that for the past few holiday seasons because I have felt so financially stressed. I'm allowing myself to buy a couple bits and bobs if I need them. Okay, alcohol budgeted $50. Obviously, we've got Christmas, you've got New Year's. I'm not a big drinker, but we'll still be bringing alcohol to the parties we're invited to. That'll be split between Joel and I. So, really, the budget together is $100, and I think that's very reasonable. For gifts, and this is exclusively Christmas gifts, I have budgeted $750. Joel and I aren't giving each other gifts this year per se, but we are going to spend at least 2 nights overnight in like Canmore or Kananaskis. We just want to have a little bit of a winter getaway relaxation. So I've allocated some money towards that. And then me and my family aren't really big gift givers. Like I've budgeted $100 for my mom, my stepmom, my brother and his girlfriend, and then my dad. We're not big spenders. I think that's reasonable. And then how we're doing it now, because we have the wedding coming up, is like I just buy things for my family, Joel buys things for his family, and we just write on the card it's from both of us. That's essentially my Christmas spending. Health, not budgeting anything. Business, $50, and that's just my Zoom and my Epidemic music. For household small, just in case we want to get some decorations, I put $75 in there. Joel and I will split everything. So I think $150 total between the two of us is like plenty to get like a wreath. I'm honestly happy with how Christmassy it's feeling in the place. So I don't think there's too much we need to spend in that regard. For household big, I'm budgeting $0. The only piece of furniture we need, we're going to hold off until January or February. So we're going to keep that budget low. For personal care, I'm just budgeting for my nails and for a pedicure. And I think like my tinted moisturizer is running out. But aside from that, there's not much else I need to spend. Miscellaneous, $100. Who knows? Who knows what will come up in the month of December, especially as inclement weather hits. You can expect miscellaneous expenses. So that's that. For wedding spending, we have a destination component of our wedding. We're having a reception in Italy, and I think we will book the flights this month, but I haven't put anything in the budget because whatever we spend on flights, we're going to pull from our wedding savings. So that is going to equal out at the end of the day because I will add the savings to my income and I will add the expense to my expenses naturally. So that's the plan there. Travel, not really going anywhere, not going back home for Christmas, unfortunately. So we're leaving that blank for now. Car, I haven't budgeted anything towards because car insurance falls under bills and subscriptions, and I feel like we have everything we need for the car. And lastly, I've added donation as a category for expenses, especially for the month of December. I feel like it is such a good time of year to give, especially when we are receiving so much, and ultimately I feel so lucky and grateful for where I am in my life and all the things that I have. So I really want to give back this Christmas season. Food insecurity is an issue that is so near and dear to my heart, and I really want to make at least $150 food bank donation. I think I'm going to film it. I'm going to do like a grocery shopping, take you guys along, kind of talk through some of the donation items I'm choosing and the rationale there, and just really raise awareness from this issue in the hope of kind of decreasing some of the stigma around food bank usage and food insecurity, which is something that has risen substantially in Canada over the past couple years. We have had exponential increases in grocery prices, and I want to do what I can to give back. And if I can spend $800 freaking dollars on groceries every single month, I can sure as heck afford to donate $150 to the food bank. I'm really hoping that I end up allocating more towards that, but that is how the budget breakdown is looking so far. That brings my total variable expenses to $2,575. So all in all, that evens out. Like this is a zero-sum budget. I'm feeling good about this. It feels realistic, and I'm hoping to surpass my virtual counseling income a little bit just to give me a little bit more room in different expense categories. But overall, I don't expect December to be a cheap month. I don't want to have a scarcity mindset when I'm out giving gifts for my family or making a donation. And if that comes at the price of me putting a little bit less towards my personal savings, that is absolutely okay. This is the time of year to be generous and to give back. And I think that is a good segue into my December goals. I have two main financial goals. Like I've said throughout the video, ultimately my goal for December and moving into 2026 is balancing my personal and wedding savings. I want to still have room in my budget to build up my emergency fund as well as contribute to our wedding fund so that I can feel secure in my financial safety net, but also that we can feel secure that we're able to have a wedding that we love. We are able to invest in that day without being extravagant and going into debt and starting our lives together in the red. That is ultimately the goal. And that will be the goal for the next 10 months. It has been really hard to mentally come to terms with that because I think I've just felt personally that like my own savings have never really been where they need to be. So it's been hard for me to wrap my head around putting equal amounts into wedding savings, which is just going to be like essentially one day of my life. But it's an investment and it is a very, very important day. I'll never be someone to say it's the most important day of my life, but I do think it is worth investing in that experience. And ultimately, I think the more we can save, the more we can just assume some of the costs that our guests are going to have to take on otherwise. That is the big goal in December and moving into 2026. As it should be. My second goal really is to just get organized with my finances in like a big picture overview. I want to do a really big financial review in December to prepare me for the new year. I want to calculate my net worth. I want to sit down and figure out what that number is because I want to set some big goals around that in 2026, and I ultimately want to take you through that journey in tracking my net worth. So it'll be good to get organized with that. So in 2026, I can track my progress in a very meaningful way. And that about wraps up my December reset. I hope you all have a beautiful holiday season, however you choose to spend it. I hope it's relaxing. I hope you feel organized and energized going into the new year. The new year is one of my favorite times of year, so I'm very excited to do some goal setting videos with you guys, do that big net worth tracker video, just take you along on my progress and some of the goals I've set for the new year. If any of that sounds appealing to you, feel free to subscribe to the channel. Feel free to like the video. Leave a comment. What are some of your goals for December? What are some things that you like to get organized with for the new year? I'm curious. I read all of your comments, every single one of them, and I respond most of the time. It is getting late on this Sunday, and I should probably start editing this video because it's November 30th, and I want to get it out to you guys in a timely fashion. So I'm going to sign off. Have a wonderful evening, month, end of the year. See you in the next one. Bye.